BAP, mbolea, fertilizer.
Absolutely. Yeah. From wherever you're watching us on this 14th day of November 2023, good evening and a very warm welcome to the Daily Report. My name is George Maringa.
And mine is Victor Muyakane.
Absolutely. Today being Tuesday, you are very aware that we have the People's Court tonight. And of course, without forgetting, by the way, our sign language interpreter is Catherine Simaloy.
Oh yes, her sign is Catherine Simaloy.
And she says, Mine is George. Victor, mine is George.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, that's...
Oh, brilliant. And mine is something that looks like this.
Yeah. And of course, this show is coming a day after the first of its kind public holiday that was yesterday on planting trees. And we want to have that conversation, especially on National Tree Growing and Environment Conservation, especially at the backdrop of that. President William Ruto aims at getting 15 billion trees. Victor, in your opinion, do you think that is an achievable figure?
It absolutely is. And when you think about the enormity of it, it can be quite intimidating.
Yeah.
But I remember the words of Wangari Maathai, and I'm paraphrasing wildly here. The little things, you know, her little thing.
Yeah.
So what's my little thing? What's your little thing that can contribute to that? We can make it happen.
Absolutely.
And guess what? Who's going to be the beneficiary? It's us, if we're still alive, and our children.
And so much so that even His Majesty the King Charles III felt a little bit challenged by that figure.
Yes.
He paraphrased and saying it dwarfed his vision on climate change. And who are our guests tonight? We have Honorable Titus Lote. He is the MP for Kacheliba. We shall also be having Rotarian Njeri Burugu. Take us through the rest, Victor.
All right, and we also have Dr. Kalua Green, who's the founder of Green Africa and one of the preeminent environmental conservation activists in the country. We also have Francis Kahuha, who's a researcher on earth and climate sciences at the University of Nairobi. These are the people who will be joining us to tackle this very, very important subject.
And our viewers are wondering where the lady is. Linda Alela is not in tonight, but of course we shall be covering for her. As always, the People's Court has conversations that involve you, the people. We invite your feedback at TV47 News, at Muyakane, at Linda_Alela,
absolutely,
at George Maringa_. Use the hashtag Daily Report TV47, hashtag People's Court.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to that conversation. Victor will be joining me on set in a few minutes, but before then, here are some of the top stories making headlines tonight. Tonight, businesswoman Ann Njeri Njoroge says that she had individuals pursuing her.
Nikatolewa na nikafungwa uso tena, nikasafirishwa, nikaenda nikatupwa mahali nilitupwa, na ndio wakili amenichukua hapa.
Njeri, who had gone missing, was accompanied by her lawyer Cliff Ombeta and disclosed that she had been taken to Karura Forest. The impact of the depreciating shilling is felt as data presented by the Controller of Budget indicates a surge of 18.09 billion shillings, equivalent to 2.9% in interest payments on domestic debt. Plus, a group of over 300 farmers in Uasin Gishu County is urging the government to exempt them from interest on land rates and provide assistance in securing the land they have resided in since 1963.
Tuko sasa ni settlement scheme. Na hii settlement scheme tulipewa 1963.
Absolutely, a lot is indeed making the headlines. We thank you for joining us. To our top story that has just broken a few minutes ago, and Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, has revoked the recently announced services rates in the country. The rates were in line with the new charges that Kenyans will have to pay for services such as ID cards, passports, and marriage certificates. In a statement released less than an hour ago, CS Kindiki said, and I quote, "It is notified for information of the general public that Kenya Gazette Notice 15-239 of 2023, 15-240 of 2023, 15-241 of 2023, and 15-2 24 of 2023 in the Special Gazette notices dated November 7, 2023, published by the CS for Interior and National Administration relating to upward revision of charges, fees and levies for various services provided by the State Department for Immigration and Citizen Services has been revoked to allow more public participation on the matter. Remember, the High Court suspended the implementation of those services. In lieu, therefore, the Cabinet Secretary, that is Kithure Kindiki, has published new intended charges, fees and levies for the same services to take effect on 1st January 2024. The State Department for Immigration and Citizen Services has been directed to conduct and complete public participation as soon as possible, but in any case not later than 10th December 2023. The intended revised charges, fees and levies are informed by the need for Kenya's self-reliance in financing the national budget to win the country from unsustainable debt, or rather unsustainable debt that poses grave threats to our sovereignty and the dignity of future generations. That is a statement coming in before going on air tonight on the suspension of the revocation of that Gazette notice, and our detailed report will be coming your way in a short while later on, and that report is indeed here. Take a look.
Through the e-Citizen platform, Kenyans can now access over 14,000 government services, up from a total of 397 services in January this year. Speaking during a meeting with principal secretaries, chief executive officers and board chairpersons of 17 state-run agencies over compliance of the presidential directive on onboarding of services on e-Citizen, Secretary to the Cabinet Mercy Wanjau stated that the government has so far identified about 2,000 services.
And we apologize for that, but just to let you know, remember the IDs had been reviewed to 1,000 shillings. Now the first-time ID applicants will pay 300 shillings down from the initial 1,000 shillings that had been revised by CS Kindiki. Now applicants who demonstrate inability to pay will be granted waivers, and ID replacement fees reduced from 2,000 shillings to 1,000 shillings, and the digital ID to be unveiled in December. So technically, you will not need a printed ID if it gets lost. And the Gazette notice that was published last week has been revoked, and new rates have been published for public participation. In that report, we shall be bringing your way on TV 47. Now, on Tuesday, Anne Njoroge, the woman at the center of the importation of 17 billion shillings worth 100,000 metric tons of diesel, was found in Mombasa County 5 days after her alleged disappearance. Njeri allegedly mysteriously disappeared after recording a statement at the Directorate of Criminal Investigations last Thursday. Moige William with the intrigues that led to her reappearance.
At the Mombasa High Court, Njeri appeared together with her lawyer Cliff Mbeta 5 days after her mysterious disappearance. The mission of the businesswoman involved in 100,000 metric tons of diesel importation scandal now being to challenge any possible arrest or detention.
So nilipewa kahawa very strong, kwa hivyo sipati usingizi, na nikapewa chakula, vegetables and meat and fruits, mango, banana, avocado and orange.
Then the officers realized there is a habeas corpus that is in court, and she might be required to appear in court. Remember, we had said that the last time she had been seen, she was these officers, and we mentioned them by names.
Njeri allegedly disappeared last Thursday after recording a statement at the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, where the investigators wanted to know the source of the money Njeri used to import diesel worth 17 billion shillings, with the Kenya Ports Authority alleging that the business lady forged some documents.
Our officers, when we call them bandits, they feel so bad and they say that we are insulting them. But when somebody brings his goods into this country, then the policemen raid you and they take your goods away, and then they tell you to leave. Aren't they bandits, honestly? Isn't that the clear definition of a bandit?
Through her lawyer, Njeri is also fighting to have the authorities barred from offloading the shipment until the dispute is heard and determined by the courts, alleging private companies taking advantage of the situation to claim ownership of the fuel.
This is the kind of thing that we are saying is dangerous for this country. It is dangerous for investors, it is dangerous for the economy. And yet, one of the things she's being told is that she's bringing fuel to this country that is cheaper than what is G2G.
Njeri also cleared the air about her being in the oil business, which has been put into question by authorities. Mwege William, TV47.
Thank you, Mega, for that. And the intrigues continue. Now, diesel and kerosene prices have been reduced in the latest fuel price reviews by 2 shillings each, while diesel prices remain unchanged. This, as the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority (EPRA) says, this decrease was despite an increase in landed costs at 2.81% for petrol and 3.28% for diesel. Kerosene landed costs have decreased by 6.31%. Now to matters the debt burden, and tonight the government has been forced to revise the 2023-2024 supplementary budget from 3.7 trillion shillings to 3.9 trillion shillings to service interest on loans. The adjustment in the mini-budget is largely due to a weak Kenya shillings, which has lost its value by 7% to the US dollar, according to the Central Bank of Kenya, driving up interest rates on loans. The Controller of Budget and the Central Bank of Kenya are now advising the government to expand the country's revenue base and cut wasteful expenditures.
The depreciation of the Kenya shilling against the US dollar, now standing at 7.2%, according to the central bank, has played a part in the 2023-2024 supplementary budget, expected to rise to 3.9 trillion shillings from 3.7 trillion shillings in June. According to the National Assembly Budget Committee, 145 billion shillings in the new budget estimates will be used to pay interest on loans.
The reason why we are making this supplementary budget, number one, is to take care of debts, repayment, and especially interest rate repayment. From the time we read our budget in June to date, we have had to revise our interest repayment by 145 billion Kenya shillings.
Data from the central bank shows external debts from the month of July to October increased by 382.6 billion shillings and 6.9 billion shillings on account of exchange rate depreciation.
I know its government is very committed to fiscal consolidation, and we would encourage continued revenue mobilization and containing unnecessary expenditures.
Owing to the financial constraints, the Cabinet, in a resolution early last month, proposed to reduce recurrent budget for each ministry by 10%.
What has really brought our inflation at a manageable level is the food inflation. Unfortunately, the side of the fuel inflation continue now to decimate the same gains you are getting in agriculture. But hopefully going forward, once the fuel prices stabilize globally, we will be in a good position.
The country is also grappling with expensive loans from the local market, whose target for the 2023-2024 financial year was 316.9 billion shillings. Apol Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo, for that. Now, a section of members of parliament feel President William Ruto did not meet the expectations of many Kenyans in his first State of the Nation, or the second State of the Nation address. Some of them argue that the president would have touched on the high cost of living, saying that it is becoming difficult for Kenyans to even afford 3 meals a day. And as Paul Kirobi reports, some MPs argue that in the long run, all shall be well.
As much as we are fixing the agriculture sector and many other sectors, we need to know how the cost of living can come down. And if we play around with this matter, I refer back to what Pastor Mackenzie said, Kitawaramba.
Expectations many Kenyans held for the head of state during his inaugural address to parliamentarians were met with varied reactions. 1 year into the tenure of the fifth President William Ruto, the debate on whether he has fulfilled the promises to Kenyan people remains a heated topic. Despite Mama Mboga, who played a significant role in Ruto's ascent to power, the president's statements appeared to lack reassurance. Funyula MP Wilberforce Ojiambo contending that inflation has escalated, thereby impacting Kenya's economy.
Inflation, Honorable Speaker, is about annual revised inflation is about 8.8% from 6.2% same period last year. The economy has contracted from 6.2% same period last year to 5.3% this year. Honorable Speaker, the cost of finance has shot up tremendously.
Economy undergoes changes, with a contracting economy potentially hindering Kenya's ability to afford the cost of living. The head of state's efforts to revive Kenya's economy in these challenging times are crucial. The chair of the Finance Committee, Kuria Kimani, argues that despite giving farmers subsidized fertilizer, the cost of maize flour will take time before going down.
So the same thing was happening when you were subsidizing maize meal through the millers, or fuel through the oil marketers. They saw a window of maximize their profits. And so essentially we're using taxpayers' money to go into the pockets of a few people who are the oil marketers and the maize millers, and consequently the price is not reduced.
A section of MPs, on the other hand, have lauded the head of state for making healthcare a priority and the steps taken so far in steering the country in the right direction.
Many of the things that we promised people as when we were campaigning as the coalition, we've achieved close to about 50% of them, and that is the record it was showing. That the other percentage will be achieved in the subsequent years.
While delivering his State of the Nation address last week, President Ruto reiterated that Kenyans have been living way above their means, and it is time for Kenyans to come to that reality. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Paul, for that. A total of 250 ministries, departments and agencies have since transformed to the e-citizen services, offering over 16,000 government services, up from 397 in January this year. According to the State Department for Immigration Services, there has been an upward increase of over 14,000 services in an effort to attain 100% government services digital transformation, as directed by President William Ruto. And as Mike Kagwango reports, 17 state agencies, including the Kenya Revenue Authority KRA, Kenya Bureau of Standards KEBS, and Kenya Ports Authority KPA have been given 30 days to integrate with the e-citizen pay bill.
Through the e-citizen platform, Kenyans can now access over 14,000 government services, up from a total of 397 services in January this year. Speaking during a meeting with principal secretaries, chief executive officers and board chairpersons of 17 state-run agencies over compliance of the presidential directive on onboarding of services on e-citizen, Secretary to the Cabinet Mercy Wanjau stated that the government has so far identified about 2,000 services that are in the process of being added to the platform.
We are committed to meet this deadline and thereafter begin to improve the customer experience and move towards customer delight.
The move is a component of the government's component of improving Kenyans' access to services and inviting them to provide feedback on the digitization of government operations. Principal Secretary for Immigration Julius Bitok stated that they are collaborating with several state agencies to expedite the process so that by December 31st, all government services will be fully integrated into the platform.
Some of the exemptions we did at the beginning to give them time to be able to integrate their systems.
The collection of government revenue through the e-citizen platform has increased to 200 million shillings, up from the previous 70 million shillings since the beginning of the year. In order to provide services on the eCitizen platform, state agencies whose services have not been digitally integrated are facing challenges and compliance issues that the government is eager to address.
There are some agencies that are still having a low level of automation, and this is an area that we encourage adoption towards digital transformation, because only then can you begin to recognize these services and the revenues that come from them on the eCitizen platform.
We are getting our way towards ensuring that even Kenya Power will be integrated towards 2222222, and that their services will be available on eCitizen. We are starting with applications for new applications for connection.
According to Wanjau, the fight against corruption will be aided by the digitization of services, particularly in the revenue collection system. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
To the Quickmart heist, and 5 suspects in the 94 million Kenya shillings Quickmart heist will remain in custody for 10 more days pending investigations. The 5, Ismail Patrick Gitonga, Michael Matolonjeru, Samuel Onyango Haya, Martin Deringanga and James Mbatia Kariuki appeared before Magistrate Zainabu Abdul, where the prosecution, through a miscellaneous application, sought orders to have them detained for 21 days. However, the court ordered them to be detained at Capitol Hill Police Station for 10 more days.
1 million shillings has been recovered so far, and that the respondents have a disposable resource which the police are apprehensive might be used to feed the jurisdiction of this court. Further, that there is likelihood of interference with witnesses and exhibits as demonstrated with the attempted painting of the building, and that a large geographical area needs to be covered in the investigation.
Now, as Kenya joined the rest of the world to mark the World Diabetes Day, Kenyans have been urged to adopt a healthy lifestyle, exercise regularly and avoid smoking, as well as harmful use of alcohol. Chichi Josephine tells us more.
A big percentage of Kenyans have been noted to suffer from diabetes, as 87% of those who have the disease do not know their health status due to failure of screening, with 40% living with the disease but not following special guidelines.
Diabetes is a serious threat to the attainment of our country's health and economic aspirations. And as a minister, I'm deeply concerned that more than 87% of Kenyans have never had their blood sugar levels checked.
This is according to Health Cabinet Secretary Dr. Susan Nakumincha, who spoke at an event to mark World Diabetes Day in Elgeyo-Marakwet County, where she advised Kenyans to adopt a healthy lifestyle and avoid harmful use of alcohol for a healthier life.
Every individual is therefore urged to eat a healthy diet coupled with ample physical activity. And lastly, we need to stop the use of tobacco and drinking too much alcohol.
On his part, Acting Director General in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, revealed that the government has put in place sufficient strategies and plans to strengthen community health services through the government's program as a way of ensuring quality health for Kenyans.
That is why, as a ministry, we have prioritized primary health care, which is comprehensive, integrated, promotes equity and inclusivity, so that we can be able to use our army of community health promoters.
Elsewhere in Turkana County, Lodwar Referral Hospital marked the day by launching a free diabetes screening campaign, as the county CEC for Health Iris Mariao noted that cases of people ailing from diabetes has gone high in Turkana County.
Kunazo sasa jinsi ya kutambua kama mtu ako na sukari ya juu kwa damu mwilini. Kunao madaktari ambao wanapima pale hospitali, na hata sasa hiyo upimaji inaendelea.
Elsewhere, lives of hundreds of patients diagnosed with diabetes in Siaya County are at risk as health facilities run out of drugs. Siaya County physician Dr. James Wagude says that the county's health facilities have run out of drugs, thereby setting back the efforts which have been made in trying to deal with the disease.
Today, if you go to the pharmacy,
Sadly, they only have insulin. There's no metformin, which is the main drug for diabetes. There's no glibenclamide. Dr.
Wagude revealed that the county's health facilities had run out of major drugs that are commonly used for diabetes treatment. Chichi, Josephine TV 47.
Thank you, Chichi, for that. More than 200 families in South B in Starehe constituency here in Nairobi will spend the night in the freezing cold following demolitions of their houses today under tight security provided by police officers. Area MP Amos Mwago, who arrived at the scene, has condemned the act, saying grabbers have been using their money to oppress the poor, adding that he is committed to fighting land grabbers. The residents say they had not been issued with any eviction notice and therefore were not given an opportunity to salvage their household items.
We have woken up to surprise news. Tumeamka tukapata illegal demolitions hapa kwetu South B. Now that's why we are here. We have come to condemn this act. Kwa sababu hakuna venye mtu anaweza amka afikirie tu akuja bomole watu manyumba. Bana. Hiyo ni kitu yenye tuna condemn in the biggest words possible. This impunity. Hii impunity ndio tunapigana nayo. Kabisa. Wananchi wa South B waliamka wakachagua serikali. Wakasema ni serikali ya mkulima mdogo. But mambo yenye tunaona hizi demolitions na rais alisema hakuna mtu atafukuzwa mahali anaishi. Hii ni kitu tuna condemn kwa serikali na tunasema hii mambo ya grabbers kukuja kuingilia hizi shamba. Watu wana papers, wanatumia pesa yao. That is what we are calling out.
Ikiwa serikali inakuja ina protect kaburu. Ikiwa serikali inatuma askari zaidi ya maelfu kuingia wanakaa kwa kaburu alafu inaanza kupomolewa. Wakati tunauliza OCBD kwamba which documents are being used to evict people, yeye anasema kwamba amekuja kuprotect watu wasipigane vita. Tunamwambia hapa hakujakuwa na vita yoyote. Je, hao watu wakipomolewa, this is a destruction ya property. Uko na eviction order kutoka kwa kaburu. So far as we speak, hakuna any document. Kaburu ameonyesha kwamba ameenda kotini, akasafu notice, akaambia watu watoke, wakakataa kutoka.
Let's get sporty now. And Cameroon national under-20 ladies team have arrived in the country ahead of their 2024 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifier against Kenya's Rising Starlets. The Belda Odemba-led side Rising Starlets will have a mountain to climb as they will have to overturn a 3-goal deficit after going down 3-0 in the first leg match played in Yaoundé, Cameroon. The second leg fixture will be played this coming Friday at Nyayo Stadium. Kisumu Lakers Hockey Club has departed the country to Malawi, where they will take part in their Hockey Africa Club Championship. The financially stricken side were on the verge of skipping the championship, which is slated for November 16th to 26th, but breathed a sigh of relief after they landed a 2.2 million Kenya shillings sponsorship from Rentco Africa Limited, which will facilitate them during their participation in the tournament.
We are glad and happy that this is the second chance we are having within one calendar period. The first one was really a testing window. It was our first time and green-ons per se. But this time around it's the second phase and we are more familiar with the teams we are going to meet. And one of them is our home team, if I may go with that. And we are ready psychologically and far much confident and composed with the support that we're receiving from Rentco. and any other partner that is going to come on board.
Okay, so for the moment, the sponsorship is specifically to facilitate their travel to Malawi and be able to support them in Malawi. Of course, they are having other engagements, and anything that comes out in the future will be, will be advised to the public. But generally, this one is specifically for this championship. There's uniforms and other costs which the team can be able to clarify further, because we have just given a check that is wholesome, so the team will be able to apportion those costs accordingly.
To the debutants of Harambee Stars and Agent Firat protege duo of Nabi Kibunguchi and Eric Balencho have expressed their excitement after they received their maiden call-up to the national team. Balencho Nabi has been in the camp with the rest of the squad, which is preparing to take on Gabon and Seychelles in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers.
Being part of this group right now, definitely I feel like I was going to raise my stock in terms of the coming months, so I'm looking forward to what else is to come here in the national team and forward in my club career. Because this is my roots. My parents from here, my grandparents, so I really wanted to just go back to my roots because I really love this country and I just want to compete and just play for this patch on the jersey. So
I feel good, nasikia poa kupewa chance ya ku represent national team kwa provincial squad na tazidi kujiimarisha mambo ikuwe poa hapo mbele. Basically I'm learning. There are more experienced players in the team. Learning is a learning process since I'm young, and I'm yet to learn from them. And basically, I'm working on scoring more goals and assists in the future, so I'm working on that as well.
Now that story winds up the news segment right here on the Daily Report. Up next is the People's Court. Our guests are already here in studio. We are back in a few minutes for that conversation on national